Section 3. The use of words, phrases, and symbols. Arizona Fair Housing 101. Words matter more than you think. The following week, Sarah stopped by David's office, carrying a draft of a new property advertisement. "I think I've got this one ready," she said proudly. "Would you mind taking one last look before I post it online?" David smiled. Of course. He read through the advertisement carefully before setting it on his desk. The photos look great. The property description is accurate. But there's one sentence I'd remove. Sarah looked surprised. Really? Which one? David pointed to a line that read, "Perfect home for young professionals looking for a quiet neighborhood." Sarah frowned. "I thought that sounded nice." "It does," David replied. "But ask yourself this question. Who might feel like this home isn't meant for them?" Sarah paused. "I guess a retired couple, or maybe a family with children." The problem isn't whether you intended to discriminate. The problem is how the advertisement might be interpreted by someone reading it. One of the easiest ways to create a fair housing complaint is through advertising. A single word, phrase, image, emoji, or symbol can unintentionally suggest that certain individuals are preferred or discouraged from considering a property. The goal of every real estate advertisement is to market the property, never the type of person who should live there. Describe the property, not the buyer. David explained that one of the simplest fair housing rules to remember is this: advertise the features of the home, not the characteristics of the people who should live there. Instead of describing the ideal buyer, describe the home's actual features. For example, 3-bedroom home with an open floor plan, large backyard with covered patio, ground floor condominium, updated kitchen with quartz countertops, close to shopping, parks, and public transportation. Each of these statements describes the property itself without suggesting who should or should not purchase or rent it. Sarah nodded. So instead of saying who belongs there, I simply describe what the property offers. Exactly. Words that may create fair housing concerns. David explained that certain words and phrases can unintentionally suggest a preference, limitation, or exclusion based upon a protected characteristic. For example, advertisements should avoid language that suggests a preference based upon race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, familial status. Sometimes the wording is obvious. Other times it is much more subtle. Examples of language that may create fair housing concerns include perfect for young couples, Christian neighborhood, ideal for singles, no children, adults only, safe ethnic community, walking distance to the synagogue or church when used to attract a specific religious group, rather than simply describing the property's location. Even if the licensee has good intentions, these types of statements may suggest that certain individuals are preferred over others. Images and symbols can send a message. Sarah asked another question. What if I never use those words? David smiled. Advertising isn't limited to words anymore. Today's advertising often includes photographs, videos, graphics, social media posts, emojis, AI-generated images, logos, and promotional designs. The images selected for an advertisement can communicate just as much as the written description. For example, consistently using photographs that portray only one demographic group or creating marketing materials that suggest housing is intended for only certain types of people may create fair housing concerns. Likewise, symbols or graphics that promote or discourage particular groups may raise questions during a fair housing investigation. The safest approach is to ensure that both your words and your visuals focus on the property itself rather than the people who may purchase or occupy it. Location descriptions require care. Sarah pointed to another sentence. I also wrote that it's located in a family neighborhood. David shook his head. That's another one I change. Rather than describing the people who live in the neighborhood, describe objective facts. Instead, say things such as located near community parks, convenient access to shopping and restaurants, close to public transportation, nearby recreational trails. These are factual descriptions that allow buyers to determine whether the location meets their own needs. Real estate professionals should avoid describing neighborhoods based upon the types of people who live there or making recommendations based on assumptions about protected characteristics. Remember, buyers choose neighborhoods. Real estate professionals provide objective information. Advertising in today's market. David reminded Sarah that advertising has changed dramatically over the past decade. Today, many advertisements are created with artificial intelligence, social media scheduling tools, and automated marketing platforms. Those tools are incredibly helpful, but they're only as good as the person reviewing the final product. Whether an advertisement is written by a licensee, a marketing company, or an AI program, The Arizona real estate professional remains responsible for ensuring that the final advertisement complies with fair housing laws and Arizona licensing requirements. The computer doesn't hold the license, David said with a smile. Arizona broker tip. Before publishing any advertisement, ask yourself one simple question. Does this advertisement describe the property, or does it describe the type of person who should live there? If it focuses on the people instead of the property, revise it before it goes live. Online discussion. Question 1. Why is it safer to describe the features of a property rather than the type of person who may want to live there? Answer. Fair housing laws prohibit advertising that suggests a preference, limitation, or exclusion based on a protected characteristic. Describing the property instead of the ideal buyer helps ensure advertisements remain objective and inclusive. Question 2. How can photographs or AI-generated images create fair housing concerns, even if the written description appears compliant? Images, graphics, and videos communicate messages just like written words. If advertising consistently portrays only certain demographic groups or suggests housing is intended for specific people, it may create the appearance of discriminatory preferences. Question 3. Why is the Arizona licensee ultimately responsible for advertisements created by marketing companies or AI? Answer. The real estate license belongs to the Arizona licensee, not the software or marketing company. Licensees are responsible for reviewing all advertising before publication to ensure compliance with fair housing laws and ADRE advertising requirements.